Well, I'm at Partridge Lakes today for Fish O Mania. It's Wednesday the 16th of June, start of the river season, and yeah, lovely day again. It's not fishing all that well, isn't Partridge? There's a lot of F1 venues aren't at the minute, so it's going to be interesting today. Unfortunately, I've drawn absolute muck again. I've drawn peg 70 on Covey 3, which although the wind's sort of pushing down that way, I think it's not the best at all by any means. I did deliberate whether to go to it. Andy Bennett fished it yesterday on a coaching day and didn't catch an awful lot, so I've just come for the day out, really enjoy myself. Winning's probably not going to be possible from that peg today, but you know, there's section money and there's just pleased to be out, really. So I've got my gear here all set up on the barrow, and yeah, let's get it to the peg and see what it looks like, and fingers crossed for a half decent day. So this is peg 70. There's a bridge there, but that's not mine. It's quite narrow actually, it's only about sort of 12 metres wide here. I've got 68 in there as well. There's a little bit of a corner here, but so it's not a particularly great area, I don't think, from my experience of Partridge. Bait wise, I've just got about 5 pints of maggots, a few worms, a few micros, just to make up the rest of the 8 pint limit. Rig wise, just got some mud rigs really with RW muddies for fishing sort of, well, 16-inch deep, but I'm not sure if they'll come into that today. If they do, I can always go shallower as well. There are some shallower spots, but I just thought I'd start about that today. And I've got a few sort of deeper rigs in about 2 foot with RW dinks, I think they are. I've just thickened the tip a bit to about 1.8 mil. And I've just got a few of them set up, really. I'm not really bothered shallow. It's probably the first time I've been to Partridge in summer and not bothered with shallow, but I just can't see it working. It's literally about 4 foot deep down the track, and there's just, I've got one shallow rig set up, that's it. But anyway, we're just about to start the match. I've only put 2 nets in. Could put another one if needs be, but I'm not expecting great things today, so let's see what happens anyway. Peg 70 on Covey 3. completely. Oh my God. Right, so although it might look like I had a few fish in that footage, I've actually heavily cut it, and the truth is it was extremely difficult as expected. It was difficult to string, more than a couple of fish together from a single line. Some lines you're waiting a long time for bites, and when you're doing that, you're never going to do any kind of weight really in the summer months. It's more winter time when you have to mess around and swap and change so much. So yeah, first problem is I was probably a bit rusty, to be honest with you. I've done so little F1 snakebait fishing the last few years, especially this last year as well, with health and stuff. So and the other one was, to be honest, I was on the wrong bait. New casters have been working there. It was in the match results. A lot of people have been catching on casters, on the bottom across, up in the water across, and down the middle as well. But because I had a last minute ticket, and I got a ticket last minute, I didn't have any, and nobody could get any around Leeds. There was problems, whatever, and there was a lot of demand because the river season started, and Partridge didn't have any. So, if I'd been on a flyer, and if I thought there was a genuine chance of winning and framing on casters, I'd have probably gone into Warrington, see if I could find some in the morning. But as it was, just had to make do with maggots, ground bait, and a few worms. Yeah, it was. Well, it's peg 70. Andy Bennett had been on it the day before, as I said. I messaged him, and yeah, he said there was a few carp there, but they wouldn't have it, and they were just milling around, which was exactly what I found, to be honest. Although, to be honest, there were more the other side of the pallet, sort of close to the bridge, which I couldn't fish to because it was past the pallet. So main plan was to fish sort of tight over and tight in both banks, where it was about 16-inch deep on both sides, to be honest, and with ground bait and maggots. And I had a few fish early on maggots on the deck, sort of in 2 foot, and I tried that to the pallet as well, but it just wasn't right. And the best line turned out to be sort of down the edge to my left, in about 8 meters down the bank, in between a couple of reed beds, and it was just in between those, with the tightest I could get in, basically into the edge, tightest spot I could get in, shallowest water. And I just had a few runs there, but they were very small fish. They were sort of stockies. They weren't like the 2-pounders you normally get a partridge, so that was a bit disappointing. And again, on the far side, I had a couple of lines in the mud on the far bank, but I only caught off one of them, which was the line in the shade to my left, which was the limit of the peg. But again, it was sort of waiting ages for a bite there, and by the time the sun came round it and it brought it out the shade and into the sun later, it completely died. And that coincided with the wind sort of changing even more as well. It sort of blown sort of across me to start with, and it went right across me westerly, and last 2 hours it's been right off my back. That's completely the wrong thing. You want a partridge, it's the F1s, they just follow the wind so much there, as they do in a lot of places in summer. And last few hours it was just dreadful. So not too much to say about that really, not too much tactics wise either. It was just like the 0.4 muddy float either side of the canal really. I did try shallow briefly as well, because the angler, I think it was Gary to my right on 68. He had a few runs shallow, bigger fun shallow on maggots, and I did sort of did feed it for a bit and tried it, but I was just getting small fish, really tiny little roach and rudd, and I ended up, as I say, he couldn't catch consistently. I think I ended up beating him anyway by fishing sort of tight in and tight over, but neither of us won a particularly good peg, I don't think, on the day, or generally for that matter at Partridge. Section got won. Sorry, I ended up with 45 pound odd, which was third in the 10 pegs, so not a disaster, not a bad result, but not great either. Section got won with 70 pound, I think, on the spit round the corner. I think he's caught on worms on 73, I think he was on. So, but again, we were never troubling the frame from that lake on the day. The winner, I'm quite happy to say this actually, was Andy May, top bloke, proper character of the sport. He had 148 pound on Covey 5, I think 109, caught on casters shallow. So well done to him. And it was quite strange, really, quite almost spooky, that it was almost 5 years to the day, literally to the day, it came up on my Facebook memories, that he qualified from Partridge in 2016, and I also qualified that day. I won the match that day off Covey 6, I think, and I had 148 pound as well, and Andy was second, and that was the year of the semi-final that 2 went through from the qualifier. So the rest is history. As I say, we both qualified from the semi, and he won the final that year, and Cudmore in 2016. So yeah, second place was Paul Holland, another great angler. So gutted for Paul as well, because he's been so close to qualifying now a few times. It's only a matter of time before he makes a Fish O or Mania final. He did really well on the day, actually, from his peg. He had 144 pound on casters on the deck, I think, on Covey 4, at the top end of Covey 4, which isn't usually that great. So really hard lines to Paul, but I'm sure he'll be back for another go, and I'm sure he'll get in one very, very soon. As for me, I've got quite a few in July, so I'll take the camera along to those. Hopefully we'll get a much better peg than we have been doing of late, and we'll get a chance sooner or later for one of these big events. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching. See you next time.